pavement of asphalt right where this thing was bobbing over the center of the road. Now when Betty Cash was going back to her car, she got burned on the handle of her car door, and she eventually died from the effects of radiation sickness that she got from this. But this was definitely a dead solid case. Now I just asked the question, would an alien craft be spewing out sparks and smoke and flames, and then would 24 double rotor Chinook helicopters be following after this? It seems more likely that this was one of our early atomic-powered spacecraft that went array, and they were chasing after it. Interesting, only known newspaper article about something that took place at Norton Air Force Base, November the 12th, 1988. There was a Thunderbirds demonstration at this particular open house, but unfortunately, there was poor visibility at this particular air show. IFR conditions prevailed at the time, and so this particular Thunderbird illustration had to be cut short. But concurrently going on, as these Thunderbird pilots were flying, something took place inside this big hangar at Norton Air Force Base, and it's actually called the Big Hangar. These shots just show you how big this hangar actually is. Here you see the interior of it, and then one more that shows the interior. This was a covert dog and pony show to garner support and funding for classified black programs. We know that Senator Alan Cranston was present. We know that Congressman George E. Brown Jr. was present, and a number of high-level government military officials. Now, what was inside this hangar? This particular aircraft was one of the aircraft inside this hangar. It was an unmanned aircraft, approximately 100 feet in length, 65 feet across. The whole thing was comprised of thermal-resistant, abrasive, heat-resistant thermal tiles directly taken off of the space shuttle. It's the same heat-resistant system used on the space shuttle. There were 4 turbojet engines embedded into the interior of the craft, which was unmanned. Each had an air intake in the front and an exhaust port at the back. There were control surfaces along the leading and trailing edge that had tricycle landing gear. Now the concept being that the turbojets would take this aircraft up to about Mach 3. Once that happens, the leading edge of this aircraft starts glowing red hot, and they start inserting a modified liquid methane fuel with a boron-based additive directly into the superheated shock wave via these fuel injector nozzles. As soon as that happens, it immediately combusts and compresses right here between the superheated shock wave and the tapered afterbody of this aircraft, pushing it across the sky at about 12,000 miles an hour. They also had 121 launch tubes, each containing a nuclear device that could be launched in 1/10 of a second, about a 110 megaton warhead. So that was one of the aircraft that was present. Here you see the Popular Mechanics illustration of the external burning. There's absolutely no moving parts whatsoever in this particular aircraft. So we have the Aviation Week report. We also have the Jane's Defense Weekly report talking about America's chased hypersonic flight. So when you have 2 independent confirmation sources talking about the same configuration, plus the aerospace engineers who saw it in the hangar, you can rest assured that this was a real bird. The other aircraft that was in this hangar was something called the Superstall. This particular aircraft used a conventional tail arrangement. There was an F-16 heads-up display in the forward cockpit. It had a very unusual outrigger wheel design for the landing gear. It had 2 miniature turbofan engines that tapered back to a platypus exhaust port. But the most unusual feature was a very unusual Venetian blind wing arrangement that used Inconel plates, thermal-resistant Inconel plates. It also had a 30mm Gatling up front. It's the same gun that you see on the A-10 Warthog that takes off at Davis-Monthan here almost every day. A very interesting defensive system here, just to give you a size of the scale of this gun. That was embedded in the nose of this aircraft. The pilot had the capability to change the angle of attack of these deflector plates from 0 to 45 degrees, causing vertical takeoff. So that's the breakdown on the Superstall. Now I'm proposing that a modified version of this particular jet engine, which is the Williams International FJX-2, was used on the Superstall, and that this particular